At first glance, this seems to be no more than a highly realistic painting, almost a mere snapshot of the reality we see all around us in big cities. A cinema entrance on a corner, complete with posters and pictures of the stars. A box office and cashier, people buying tickets or simply standing around. They are gathered in and around a somewhat pompous building, whose architecture plainly derives from opera houses or theatres. But the rows of lights strung around the curved ceiling add a touch of the circus or music hall. In the background, we find the foyer, decorated with gilded female statues. A cinema of the 30s. The title of the painting, 20-cent movie. The shop assistants, labourers and office workers come here after work looking for entertainment and diversion, trying to forget the shabbiness and tawdriness of city life. They are hoping to lose themselves in a world which does not exist in their reality, drawn by this doorway, glittering in the night with its artificial light. Street life, a scene from the sidewalk of a big city. Street life captured by the perceptive eye of the artist, painted in egg tempera on a canvas 1 meter wide. The painter is the American Reginald Marsh, 38 years old in 1936 when he made this picture. His studio was in Manhattan on 14th Street, a rather sleazy, run-down area. This is where he found most of his subjects. The 20-cent movie, however, is based on the Lyric Theatre on 42nd Street. Paintings like this give us a coherent view of what life was like then in the New York of the 30s. This is the time after the Great Depression, the time of returning prosperity, the time of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal, a program of reforms designed to overcome the economic crisis. This New Deal also included an employment scheme for artists, and Reginald Marsh, too, got commissions in this way. The cinema provides the crowd, breathing softly in the dark, with flickering black and white visions. The entrance to the cinema is the gateway to a movie heaven, to 1.5 hours of happiness and escape. Reginald Marsh saw this and captured it. The characters, men and women alike, who make an appearance here. The architecture, with its lights enticingly illuminating the night. The advertisements, whose pictures and words leap out at passers-by. Consumerism incarnate. Individual words and fragments of phrases stand out on the cinema's facade, like newspaper headlines. The word now is repeated, electrifying the moment, without lending it any meaning. Then the names of the stars, Frederick March and Anna Stern, as well as Leo Carrillo, whose blown-up photos form a triptych above the box office and the entrance. Finally, words to excite, seduce, advertise. Stripped bare. A love written in blood. Joys of the flesh. The same or similar words can still be seen today, every day, on the many cinemas in Midtown Manhattan. As we said, at first glance, a very realistic picture, like a snapshot of the reality the painter saw. But the picture has more to show. The techniques used, color, line, contrast of light and dark, the composition, are all rather simple. A sketchy, reporting style predominates. But it is precisely this which allows the reality of the situation to come across without becoming either cluttered or edited. Thus, this reality, rather than the artist's interpretive skill, becomes the artistic event. But what is so interesting about this banal reality? Does it contain anything that Reginald Marsh emphasized and brought to the fore, as he and his true-to-life fellow artists in America or Europe did? Let us look at a few examples. The painting Subway by George Tooker uses a low ceiling, a cramping perspective, depressed expressions and restrained gestures to create an atmosphere full of inhibition and anxiety. Edward Hopper's painting Nighthawks gives us a glance into a bar at night. Here the prevailing mood is one of exhaustion, lack of fulfillment, inability to communicate, isolation after a pointless day of work. Or, moving to Europe, George Gross's Dedication to Oscar Panizza. A demonic, turbulent crowd moves along a street full of frightening, leaning, and oppressive facades. And Otto Dix, in his painting Big City, manages to unmask a banal, everyday reality by selecting and arranging his subjects, filtering and compressing to turn the street into an exhibition of all that is objectionable. Hopper said about his Nighthawks, "Unconsciously, probably, I was painting the loneliness of a large city." The artist's perception and understanding of the world are forced on the observer. To this end, reality becomes stylized, displaced, twisted, compressed. These are all legitimate means of depiction and interpretation, used here in an especially forceful way. Not so Reginald Marsh, who had been trained as an illustrator and was one of the original staff members of the New Yorker. His style is consistently detached and exact, like a reporter's, yet he still brings something to the fore. It is not so much the technique, but the subject matter. It is the allegorical within reality which is accessible to a perceptively employed eye or camera. The allegorical element here lies in the presentation of a real cinema entrance as a world stage, complete with above and below, lead roles and extras. The lead actors are emphasized by their pose, facing the viewer. The woman in the white suit, the black man with his hat cheekily resting on his ear, the man with his hands in his pockets. They stare at us from the picture, watching us. They are concerned about their appearances. Their gestures and posture imitate their idols in the movie heaven. This cross-referencing above and below is accompanied by a cross-referencing right and left in the positioning of the stars and the advance notices. Frederick March, whose poster appears on the left, can be seen on the right. Leo Carrillo, seen on the right, appears in the advance notice on the left. This interlinkage in the upper part of the picture is discarded below. Instead, women on the left are opposed to men on the right. This is an allusion to the perpetually recurring theme of all B movies: boy meets girl. Seen in this way, the picture is far more than a faithful depiction of reality. It becomes a visual epitome of real life with all its many tensions.